welcome to Street Talk. Good evening, welcome to Street Talk. I'm your co-host, Dominic Cotton. Don't adjust your TV sets tonight. I do have Father Russ with me, but we decided to change seats today. Today, I'm going to be interviewing Father Russ. So before we get started, let me do a little shout out to Ray. Ray, we're glad you're listening. I know I'm going to get feedback from the towers tomorrow. We don't want to forget about Bobby and Darren and everybody up at the house. And I have to introduce my guest out here. But before we do that, one last thing. We have to say a quick prayer for Andy Maynard, who's hopefully doing better these days. And we want to see you up and around as soon as possible. And we're hoping, that you come through and everything's going to be okay. So, and here's my guest, Father Russ Carmichael.
Oh, my word. I'm in the hot seat tonight, huh?
That's it. Well, we're not going to ask you where the bodies were buried, because that's not a good way to start out a show.
I heard you were calling my partners to try and find out. But
I thought about doing this whole show around how things have been changed for you over the years, and I was going to ask some people some questions, but I figured since I have you right on the spot here, what do I really need to ask anybody else questions about you?
Well, most of my audience are well aware of my background, 11 or 12 years. Mary would have to remember how long we've been on. Consistently, we've been here. So most people know one of the reasons we're doing this is we're going to go in different venues right now and expand it down your way. So there's a lot of people who don't know,
And that's what our good friend Tim Bowles told us. So we needed to introduce everybody to Father Russ Carmichael, as if he isn't so well known around here. We're now on two other cable systems. Right. We're in Cablevision, which is Bridgeport, Fairfield, Orange, Milford, and Stratford, and now we're also on the Naugatuck Valley cable systems. Thanks to some friends that were willing to sponsor us up on those shows. So really, we wanted to give people an opportunity to understand what we're about, but not just about the show and what we're trying to do politically, but also to be able to let people know, okay, who's the crazy guy with the beard, as Governor Malloy says. He sees the white beard floating in the room, and he starts to get a little nervous. So he wants to know who the people are in the room. So I've known you for the last year. We've become very fast friends, obviously, from all the involvement that we've had and all the work that we've done together, and many times that we've sat there and talked philosophy and understanding of where we are with how we see the world around disabilities and the justice issues. I really look at your life, and I know I said this to you the other day. It's almost like a three-act play. It's the before, it's the redemption or the change, and it's the person that's seated before me here today, because the person that's seated before me here today really isn't the same person that started life out along this long path. And you've had so many different involvements in so many different things, but there's a couple themes that I noticed that run within you, and one of them, first and foremost, is always loyalty. And from the bottom of my heart, obviously, I have felt that, and I know what it means when you say I'm ready to go to the wall with you, and what that involves. And not a lot of people understand that, and maybe people don't really get that completely with you. But I know, starting off life, I know you came from the Boston area. You didn't come from a broken household, so to speak.
No, I did not. No. I grew up in Newton, Massachusetts. Okay, upper middle class, working people, and a little more than that. Some of my family done very, very well. Okay, my father had was in the Marine Corps and stuff like that. I was obviously a war baby, 43. And so my dad wasn't home for probably the first 6 years, well, for at least 5 years of my life, and then he come in. And so, I kind of grew up those farming years as an only child, my very young years, and then he come home and like most military people, even today that happens, he in those days come home, you would say shell shock. Today it would be PTSD and stuff like that. Right, so when he come back in the house, little Lord Fauntleroy at the time, who was the oldest of my Italian
running the roost already.
There was a big change in the household. And even though you're really young, there was an issue. My dad took some adjusting. So there was about a year that I was at my aunt's and uncle's house because of what he was going through and everything else like that. And I probably think that was the first place I felt like I was abandoned, because I was prince of the house, and I've always I kind of grew up in an Italian household mostly. I'm Scotch Italian, but the household in my farming years were very serious Italian household with my grandfather and my uncles, a big family. And we lived in a duplex house together, and in Beach Street, 13 Beach Street, Newton, Massachusetts. I was fortunate because it was a great place to grow up, in the fact, for education-wise and stuff like that. But I was a rebellious kid, extremely rebellious, and with the intervention of my father coming home, I guess I became a real difficult individual and challenging everybody and stuff like that. And then I was about 8 and 9 years old, I guess, and instead of getting a puppy, I got a brother. Okay, which was really, really good. My brother's a great individual. I love my brother and stuff like that. We didn't have a big family like a lot of okay. However, my area, because of where we grew up as an Italian family, I had cousins and so. Okay, we're all like
a large extended family,
huge, and we walk in everybody's house. It's very different, very family orientated in those days than now. But again, I was a difficult child, and I grew up very fast. I wanted everything fast. The quick thing is, I was out and getting married, 16 years old.
Wow.
Yeah, and I wanted all things my own way and stuff like that. So when you talk about having life experiences, I had them very young, very quick. Family man, very, very quick. By the time I was 21, I had 4 children. I had already tried a business. I was moving very rapidly, very fast. And then by the time I was 26, I was getting indicted for organized crime. That's the fast story, okay? I'm
sure it's a lot more complicated than that, Father.
It is, and I do this, and I am, in the New England area especially, I'm extremely well known in the justice field because of being an ex-convict, and I actually do my show and do this because it's about demonstrating to other people that even if you have a background like I got, you can change, that you're able to effectively change and make a decent life for yourself. And so that's part of what I do today. But
I know for me, you live a very transparent life. Everything's out there.
Everything's out there
for everybody to see. Yeah. Because I know it's important for you and for everybody else around you to know what you've been through and what your experiences are in order to be able to see how somebody can change.
Well, in the 60s, okay, I went to, obviously, I ended up in prison. I was organized crime. I went for booking and loan sharking, and as what did Bobby tell you? My partner, Bobby called me a bank robber. But I didn't go for bank.
I think I call you the master of intimidation. Something that's probably served you well over the years. I think you've mastered some of the ways to make people feel uncomfortable and do some of the things that you like.
Well, I was a gang leader very early. I mean, I was at 10, 11 years old, I was caddying at the country club in Newton with the rich and the famous. And while I was doing double bags caddy, in those days you had there was no cards. I was running a card game at the Caddy Shack. And, I had a little crew and stuff like that. I was fortunate, though, in that because of where I grew up, if I had grown up in a poverty section or the projects or something like that, I probably would have been in, like my associates would have been. I think
Bobby DeLello calls you the privileged rich kid over there.
Right. I would have been in juvie with Bobby and other guys that I knew. I would have, but I wasn't. I grew up in a situation where the family was politically connected, knew of people, and the cops all knew me and the judges knew me and stuff like that. So I got out of things up until I was, as I say, I was 26 when finally they said, "Okay, kiddo." And I skipped all the jail things and all those kind of things. I went right to the big house. And when I went to the big house, I went with 34 guys. Okay, when they raided me and they did my organization, 34 of us went all at once. And when I went into Walpole State Prison, I went in but I didn't realize. I mean, I never been in a justice kind of thing. When I went in, didn't realize I was a leader of this big group, this gang. And so when I got there were lots of my friends there. So they already had my job, where I was going to sleep and all this stuff. I had no idea of the pecking order in prisons or anything else like that. So my orientation to prison was very different than, say, some poor kid that gets slammed in there and has no...
Well, it's different circumstances these days.
Totally.
I mean, we've talked about this
even
before.
In those days, right?
What you're talking about, organized crime, you're talking about crimes of economics.
Economics.
You had kids to go support.
That's exactly right.
You started off a life very early,
right.
And maybe weren't equipped maturity-wise for realizing
not at all. I was
that truly involved.
Exactly right. No, I was a total nitwit. I mean, I didn't know what I was doing. I starting a family, 16, 17 years old, having babies. I'm working 3 jobs, and I'm finding out why I can't buy a new car. What's this? I thought this was the way So I found it very quick and very easy to steal, do other entrepreneurial stuff that earned me quite a living that I could get by. And then,
as they say, everybody's got the American dream. It's all in how you get there.
How you get there. But you're right. It was economic, as Bobby and my associates taught me over the years, that when I went in, there were economic criminals. There was breaking and entry guys. They were economic crimes. They were professional thieves, safe crackers, and stuff like that. There were hardly any drugs. Very, very rare to have a drug. And of course, today, that's not the case. Now it's upside down. The vast majority of the people that go to prison are there because of drugs, and they do stupid things. I mean, they're not professional thieves. They're not professional. They don't plan nothing. They see something, they steal it. They need to get a hit, whatever they need. So it's not, the times have changed, okay? How you get straight hasn't changed, though. I mean, there's a certain part of that doesn't change. I mean, there's a certain part of that where you've got to accept the responsibility of who you are, what you've done, how you've hurt people, one guy might do it because of drugs. I devastated family because of actions and stuff like that. Still the same thing.
I think for me, that something that always strikes me is, I mean, they talk about certain personality types, that end up in a jail situation, and certainly some of the differences might be with some people is those personality types or those traits might be present in a lot of people, but what usually brings them out is a situation of where they've been through some level of abuse when they were a younger child. That you have people who never really learn empathy.
Well, and the reason I talk about when my father came home and what happens, because it's really true. You find it today with people coming back from services and the father's missing in the home. Then he interjects back in the home. Mommy's been taking care of the kids, and all of a sudden the kids become little brats and everything because the whole place is disrupted. Basically, I had that. The abandonment issue was, I mean, they didn't. What little kid understands that daddy's back? He's going through this thing, and gee whiz. Everything was one household. Now you moved to aunties. You're over here at Auntie Eleanor's, and why that's baloney. And you want to go home. And you try. And I was a disrupted kid. I tried to go home for, but you don't understand those things. So those things affect you. Then you can become for me, became a little brat. School, stuff like that. I became a little terror because, guess what? If I was a terror, I got all kinds of attention. Now, the attention went from I was a good kid and everything else like that under this certain age. Daddy comes back home, boom. He has the difficulty that I didn't understand. I get moved out. But now, when I get moved out, I perform all these things, cry, scream, do all kinds of foolishness, and now I'm back in the house again.
Yeah, see, I always differentiate between a little bit between. I like to say there's a lot of people like to say when people act out that it's negative attention. But I kind of look at it backwards. I kind of look at it as this is somebody who's screaming out that they want to be attended to. They need somebody to attend to them,
Yeah.
and that there's more going on there than just the acting out.
Well, where you are and your understanding today is very different than where it was in those years and stuff like that. Understanding education is a lot different. I mean, we're talking about parents that grew up under different situations, different systems, had different understanding about what they should do with children and everything else like that. Corporal punishment was the way. And I had a mother that believed in corporal punishment. I had a father that didn't. I was, but so what? Mother ruled. Abuse, as far as childhood, obviously things happen and everything else like that. And again, for me, I moved very fast, very rapidly, and then what I did, I was able to earn very good money very fast. I was sophisticated enough to organize a group of people.
So what is it about you that allows you to be able to organize? I mean, I'm trying to get around to, because this is
I get asked
a major
that all the time.
point.
I've got asked that a lot, and I'm not quite sure. I always knew that I could get my friends and people that I associated with, if I needed them to get together to do something that I might not be able to do, I could always get the right people to get together to do it. Even people that didn't like each other but would associate with me, I could get them to work together. Well, obviously I didn't know why that's something that happens and everything else like that. When I was studied, and I was studied in prison, I was studied by Dr. Siegel from the Center for Crime and Violence in Brandeis, and the group, because of the organizing I did in prison, the psychs all said it was because of my high motivational level. I guess I have a motivational level that goes off the chart. The problem with that is I don't necessarily have all the skills to match the motivational level. This is what psychs say. So what I do is I acquire the skill levels that I need to make sure that my motivational level comes together and I meet my goals. And I do that through multiple people. You do.
I know. I'm one of these people. I'm one of these.
You do political organizing for me. I said that's unbelievable. I mean, people, you know, where do you get him? I get asked, okay, then you see my associates and partners. You know, my administrator of the organization does stuff and everything else, is highly skilled in what she does and everything else. So if you look at all the people that are around me, they do the things that they are really skilled for to meet the goals of my mission.
Right, but you hit the key word. I think it is. It's mission oriented.
It is mission oriented.
I mean, there is a mission, or there's to what you want to get accomplished.
There is. Okay, and in years past, I used it in the criminal career type of thing, and I was I did fairly well, if you want to say crime can pay, okay, and then I had to get out of that, okay, and now in the life that I lead now, after a change and stuff like that, is all about mission. It's all about who I believe I work for and stuff like that, and you get me to talk about that, but the mission is, for me now, it's about caring about poor, marginalized people. Obviously, prisons are still my priority, people in prisons and stuff like that, to give opportunities to people that otherwise wouldn't have them, and to give voice to people who are unable to voice their situation in the political arena where we work.
Speaking of giving voice, I mean, this, I guess, was really, I really consider this is like, you see a progression within this, obviously the organizing. When you got to jail, obviously the conditions weren't exactly to your liking.
I didn't like the way things were. That's true. Okay,
I heard that the food sucked.
Oh my God! No kidding. Everything sucked. Okay, and my organizing was self-motivated. We got to prison and stuff like that. Well, I didn't like stuff. Okay, I wasn't concerned about what other people liked.
Yeah.
I was concerned about what I liked, what my own guys liked, and stuff like that. We were all guys. Most of the women didn't go. We were in the male prison. So it
wasn't like in the movies where you got like the prosciutto like brought into you.
Well,
the guy cooking like with the garlic over in the corner.
Well, we did have some of that. There was no question about there was some of that, but. Yeah, okay, initially it was not like that. Walpole at the time I was in was the most violent prison in the country. It was one of the newest built, and it was 550 some odd men there. Okay, and you couldn't get the things you wanted and stuff like that. The food did suck and everything else like that. So I started organizing in Walpole. Well, as soon as I started organizing in Walpole, I had a food strike that happened with my guys. I worked in the kitchen, and as soon as the food strike happened, almost caused a riot. Next thing, they shipped me out of Walpole because I was a leader, and they shipped me to Norfolk, figuring Norfolk is a medium that I'd have a cottage living a little different, which is on the same grounds and still walled and all that stuff, that I would do better. Well, I got to Norfolk, and Norfolk was worse. Conditions of food and stuff like that. Maybe living in the room was better. It wasn't the same type of cell. But obviously, I was down there, and I had friends down there, and I started saying, well, I don't like this, and I don't like that. And they said, well, how are you going to change that? Well, we initially did. Guys used to strike. I mean, you're right. They used to have riots. You know what I mean?
I remember hearing about
they'd
the prison
have riots,
in the
and riots
70s,
and they'd burn the place down. Well, I didn't do that kind of. I said, what are you, crazy? You think I'm going to break my TV and burn my room? So I taught the guys to look. I said, we strike. We do a food strike. We sit down. We don't eat. What are they going to do? They call out all the guards, cost them all kinds of money. I say, and when they're going to come, then we go back to ourselves and say, look, this is what, give them a demand list. They don't, and then you go back to your cell. Nobody gets hurt. They go home, they think everything's all right. 2 days later, you do the school strike, come in. If you don't get us the right stuff, we're going to keep doing this. Well, that worked because they didn't know. This was...
It confused them.
It confused them. Totally confused them.
Yeah.
Wait a minute, they're not burning their cells. No, they're not breaking their TVs, and all we got to do is give them candy or whatever. It was easy stuff, more TV time, more this, more. It was relatively easy stuff that they could do. It happened in Norfolk that they had a self-governing type of program because it was supposed to be progressive and everything else like that. So they had a government structure, and each house had a representative that would go there, and they talk about negotiation with the warden and his staff and all this stuff. Well, it was all set up by the administration. Which was not really self-government. And the guy that was usually the chairman or the thing was put in there by the warden. He was one of the warden guys. Well, I got in there and I said, no, we're going to change this. We're going to elect, everybody's going to elect their own representatives from each house, and then a backup representative in each house, and we'll all go in there, and then out of that, we'll elect a chairman. Well, I didn't think I was going to be the chairman, but what happened? We had an election, and we did that, and then I got in there, and of course they elected me chairman, and then
Chairman of the board.
I was the chairman of the board. Okay, and then what I did was I trained them in self-government. We held classes. I had a couple of guys that were really good, understood government stuff. So I trained them on how to, Robert's Rules of Order, processing, how you'd make a resolution, and what you'd want. Wow. We'd go in, we'd set up a meeting, boom, motion the thing, I nominate this, or I want to make a resolution, we need X, Y, Z, or whatever the situation was, and within an hour, we'd have this all done, and the guards would say, wait a minute, this isn't the way we do things here. I said, well, this is the way government's run. They wanted arguments. They want, now here's the package of all the stuff. You take it to the warden. We want new football equipment. We want movies on such and such a night. We want this is a different food menu, and we want the conditions in the things clean and cockroaches killed. We want different medical situations going on in the hospital clean. They were not ready for that. They were not ready for that.
Does it ever strike you? I know we talk about like political situations in a larger piece of things that it's almost like they're expecting the partisanship that happens in our political environment now.
Exactly.
And if you ever notice, whenever everybody's focused on one mission, everything all of a sudden, all the like everybody walks around with the blinders off. They turn off all the other garbage. I want to say, so to speak, and some of it is garbage.
Some of it is, right.
And they're focused. I mean, I think of like after 9/11, everybody's mood is changed. It's focused. This is what we need to do.
Right.
I think of World War II. Here is
here's the mission. This is what we got to do. Right.
And it had I guess more of I'm not sure what the word I'm looking for here. It was a worthwhile cause.
Yeah.
And that's and when people are focused like that.
Yeah, and everybody gets on the same wagon, and you do what has to happen, and you solve the problem. I mean, that's problem solving, and that's what it's about. If you get into argument and deadlocks and stuff like that, you can't find common ground, as we call it.
Right.
You ain't going to solve no problems. You're just going to waste time and burn up. So the idea is to teach people how to solve problems and get it done. It becomes a learning experience, okay, no matter what. And it can be done in prisons, it can be done in any place else. And then but people got to be responsible. You teach responsibility and things like that, and you teach to be not self-destructive. I mean, you don't burn your cell down. What are you, crazy? That's your property. You got to be you got to be a nitwit. You don't want to do that. You want to.
I never quite understood. Like I know some people get so angry that they
well,
like go and break their own stuff.
They break their own stuff, burn their own. You got to, yeah, right.
You're not helping yourself.
You're not helping yourself. No. And once well, I was lucky. Norfolk prisoners learned to do that, got very sophisticated, and then we did legal stuff. I formed legal committees and stuff like that. We did litigation, tried to get the news media in. I mean, there's a whole list of stuff that we did very well.
I think the big lesson that you taught people is that they have families.
Oh, well, that was the voting thing.
And families vote. And families make phone calls.
Exactly
and
right.
families can exude outside pressure that...
We could do all day long and talk about the things that we did in the prison situation, and then they shipped us out. We had a before Attica, we had a strike, and they took all my guys. I got paroled because of what I was doing. They took all my guys and they shipped them out, but then they shipped them to Walpole, and all that did was take people in different places and trained other people. Because I taught my guys that you train other people. You need to have, there was always, you cut off the head of the snake and the snake's gone. But if you have 32 heads, okay, and you lose the head and you can replace that, well, then you got a hydra head that keeps going. And so we taught that kind of organizing, and it was modeled after unions. I was an Alinsky trained guy I was in the union when I was 17, 16, and stuff like that. So I had backgrounds from being younger and stuff like that. So we trained people like that, and then my associates that went to Walpole did the same thing, and then they had outside hearings going on in the state because of the prison difficulties and all the stuff that was going on. And the guys ended up wanting me to represent them in the state hearings outside. So they petitioned politicians, 1,200 prisoners, crazy guys that said that I represented them on the street. Then we formed NEPA, which is the National Prisoners' Rights Organization. Then we tried to unionize in Rhode Island and different places in New England. Well, that's the fast story about organizing, and it still goes on today. I have an associate, Ralph Ham, this black taught
we're talking about loyalty. Here's a guy that you went to the wall with you.
Oh, yeah.
And 50 years later, you still go to the wall for him. You do all kinds of things, from helping to like get his books published to talking with him on a almost like a daily basis.
At least 3 times a week.
I mean, that's
going to the wall.
Yeah,
that's when you say what's going to the wall. I mean, these guys did time with me, and we did time. They did isolation time. They risked their lives. I mean, a lot of people don't understand that. I mean, Bobby DeLello, the 40. Bobby did 40. Bobby's still with me, and you talked to him the other night. Bobby did 40 years. He did about 7 years in isolation, directly related to us doing the union. Me, help, and doing the union organizing. He did 7 years in solitary confinement for me, for us. So, I mean, obviously, I'm going to be, I'd go to the wall for him any day and any time. And so when we use the term go to the wall, we mean go to the wall, no different than a soldier would mean in the foxhole. Same kind of thing. Guys in foxholes understand that. Guys who've done war things and stuff like that, they understand that the kind of loyalty. The camaraderie and the loyalty.
Yeah.
And nobody makes judgment. I don't make judgments on what they do, and they don't judge me. Of course, they think I'm a crazy priest now, but they.
So would you say, like, when you got yourself involved in all this stuff, and these people, like I said, went to the wall for you, did it change a part of like how you saw yourself within it?
Oh yeah, that's really where the change come about. I mean, my total change was, in Norfolk, I had an incident in Norfolk that happened and stuff like that, and somebody almost got really hurt and stuff like that. And I mean, I looked at myself in the mirror and said, you know, I'm turning into this animal kind of guy, and I don't like this animal kind of guy. This is, you know, this is not what I like, and I got kids and stuff like that. So I needed to think about changing. It was kind of when I took on the Jesus philosophy. I went from a Machiavellian philosophy, not that I believed God, Jesus was God or anything like that. In fact, I was atheist, but I liked the philosophy of the man Jesus, what he did, the condition. And I said, this guy's cool. Yeah, he goes to the wall for his people and stuff like this. Maybe I got to do something like this. It started in the prison where I got caught into helping people. Okay, and I think that's what they say, that you can learn empathy.
Yeah.
Okay, and if I had lost empathy, that was where the place that I started to feel for people who had less than me, because I was fortunate. I mean, I was beside guys. If my crimes were as long as the wall, and I was doing time with guys. I remember one black guy for absolutely sure. I called him the hubcap thief. He was 9 years for stealing Cadillac hubcaps. 9 years, because the black guy came from Roxbury and stole Cadillac hubcaps. I'm doing 5 years for armed robbery, booking, loan sharking, and several armed robberies were short, right? And I'm doing less than 5 years. I was doing less than 5 years. I mean, you got to be kidding. And I'm a whitey, and this guy had no opportunity, no high school graduation. I graduated Newton High School, and you know, I had even started college, and then I dropped out quick.
I think that's where, I mean, not that we can get into like race relations and other things. That's, you know, obviously that's a whole new show.
That's a whole show.
And it's a lot of complications that go into it. But unless you've met up or you talk with people, you don't realize, you know, what they go through, or the level of fear, or what they tell their children, you know, about like when you get pulled over, you know, by a cop car, you don't say anything wrong. You're like, you know, hands on the steering wheel, because you know
the different orientations to
it is
how you grow up and stuff like that. You know, I was very blessed. I was fortunate. You know, I came from a family that had political connections. They knew the commissioner of correction. They knew a lot of people. So with my big mouth, even the governor. I mean, I would do stuff. You know, my mother would come in and visit and say, you know, you got to shut up. You got to shut up. You're always in the newspaper. You're suing this one. You're suing that. Who are you to argue with the governor? I said, because Ma, the conditions in here you don't understand. And you know, my poor mother would say, you know, I got to go to work, and she worked at Raytheon Corporation, and my uncle was a big shot in Raytheon too. And my name would be in the paper, calling the governor some name or something like, or I was suing them for access to news media. I was on the Mitford suit at the time. She was a national, international author. She was suing to see me and Jerry, another guy at another institution. So I was getting publicity too, because of the work I was doing. I contacted the news media. I knew enough to, you know, I contacted my local senator from Newton, who came in to see me, Jack Backman, who protected me when I was on parole and stuff like that. Prisoners didn't know how to do those kind of things in those days, you know. Now they're getting sharper.
Well, yeah. No, I mean, and obviously, legal action.
Legal action was key to it.
Is key, because
It was
if
key. It was
you can
absolutely
talk
key.
all you want some days,
that's
but
right.
unless you're willing to bring out the hammer
Well,
and come with the legal action,
that was it.
you know, people sometimes ignore you. They're like, okay, yeah. Well, you know, we'll give him his candy, like you said, or give him like this little thing over here or there. But once you bring the legal action, and they see that, I know, you know, some of these guys probably, you know, They have to check their drawers afterwards because they're
Oh,
like,
you
my
get,
God,
oh, you get.
what are we
you
getting
bang-
into
oh,
now?
Yeah,
What do they want now?
Well, and then of course we train guys. Okay, because number one, nobody can afford all the attorneys it takes. So we ended up. I'm a jailhouse lawyer. I could have went to law school and stuff like that. And as far as civil rights, I'm probably as good as most attorneys because I was so close to having to do those things. I would fight with lawyers, making them do stuff. Bobby's obviously paralegal, jailhouse lawyer, stuff like that. Got himself out. Okay, Ralph was a jailhouse lawyer. Okay, our guys trained and then went to school on their own to learn how to sue, and then trained other people, and that's what you do. And so we were pretty good. And then what happened was Harvard Law got involved with us. Boston University Center for Criminal Justice, and I ended up having, some of my attorneys are famous today, that got involved with us through the 60s and 70s, and they were young students and graduate students and stuff like that, and it did major lawsuits on the conditions of what was going on medical treatment. See, once we got in a situation with a governmental thing, I didn't play games with candy and popcorn in the store, which they were not. They were expecting candy and popcorns. I went after the key issues: access to news media, medical conditions for the prisoners and stuff like that, food conditions, all key
constitutional
all
issues.
constitutional issues, all of them. That's exactly right.
Yes.
Cruel and unusual treatment, where prisoners got beaten and stuff like that, and we'd bang them, and the prisoners had to learn how to protect their own people too, because you had guys in there that they didn't have the help outside. They didn't have, like Ralph has, help outside. His family's all over but he's got his connections, and now he's doing a lot of time and he shouldn't be in there right now, but still he has people who are, we're watching him because they abuse him, and he's black, and he's there because he's black and a leader and stuff like that. But obviously they will only do so much because they know that there's an outside eye on him, and that's what has to happen. Otherwise, they're in some cell alone, getting abused, as you see in them.
And nobody knows what's going
on. Exactly right.
Now, talking about the little thing that we have, like over here, because I know you like Jesus, who was clearly, obviously, had a mission, and he most definitely was a radical within his time.
Absolutely.
How did you become involved?
Well, I took the philosophy and I studied my theology. I studied as an atheist, really to do a number on priests and nuns and stuff like that. I totally didn't disagree with, and tell them that they were reading comic books and fantasy stories. However, once I started to change and everything, and I was faking it, and everything knew it. I knew that this is a good philosophy, and I liked all the things that were dealt with, but. I guess I had what people call an epiphany at a certain point. I had got sick when I was out, and I had a religious experience, which shocked me and stuff like that. And I kind of sensed that I had a mission that I was supposed to do. And of course, I don't sell my religion to anybody. This is all about me. I needed help to change, and I use the term that Jesus is my straitjacket, as many people have heard over the years. Because I know in and of myself I couldn't do any of the things that I do. I don't think I have the strength or the ability to do that, and I was a nasty, what did you say? It was really good. I had a psych told me that. I intimidated, and I have I have a way about me that
I've seen you get angry and upset, and
again, you don't lead. I always tell people, you do not lead 1,200 crazy criminals by being Mr. Nice Guy and stuff like that, and you got to mean what you say. I think you heard that from Bobby. Your loyalty. All you got when you're in a prison is your word. You got nothing else. I don't care if people got money or anything else. No, you don't have. Doesn't mean nothing. You got your word, and there's no place. That Joe Louis used to say, no place to run, no place to hide. So you are either who you are, or you're at the whim of abuse and everything else like that. And I went through my way, and I don't believe I'm religious. I follow a way, totally defined. I use the book of Matthew, the oldest written stuff, gospel, on how to follow my life and what I do as close as I can to.
You find a difference, and I certainly find this. There's a difference between religious and spiritual.
Very different.
Religious is the dogma, is the rules,
Right.
and spiritual is exactly those words.
Well, I'm like the Pope, I swear.
Yeah.
And I drink.
Yes.
And I fight.
Yes.
Occasionally, although I'm getting too old. But I obviously, I had a spiritual, whatever you call it, in 1974, they thought I was going to die. I was supposed to, I wasn't supposed to make it past 1976. I have a chronic lung type of thing. I had open lung surgery and stuff like that. But prior to the thing, I basically had this kind of going to the light or whatever people want to say that, and I talk about it when I do preach in church. I talk about it. I don't think I've ever discussed it on television or in public, but I knew that I wasn't going to die. All the doctors, I was in Newton Wellesley Hospital, my doctors were top, they were top like my Yale people, were top doctors. They said no, that I had at best 2 years to live, that they didn't think I'd make it past 1976. Well, my awakening said that no, that's not the case, and I told my parents and everything else like that, and then I kind of said, I know that I know, and that's all I needed to know. I don't care who it is or what it is, but I know there's something other, okay? Well, obviously I made it past 1976, and a lot of people have gone by the wayside, and I'm still here. I go and see my doctor, and they say, "Oh, you made it this month. Okay, see you later. See you in 6 months."
As I like to say, I know we've been through this with people with brain injury. I mean, when they're in the comas, and a lot of them have these spiritual experiences.
They have spiritual experiences, right?
And one of my clients that I work with, he always likes to say, God told him it's not your time yet.
It isn't your time. That's basically what happened to me. And I've had maybe two others in my long, and that's why I'm called a mystic in the sense that God's with me all the time, directs me in what I do, and I do it. The mission is about Jesus, as I said, Jesus is my straitjacket.
Well, Jesus was about the marginalized. And he was the margin. I mean, that was really what he was all about. People in prisons.
Oh yeah, or poor, all marginalized.
All exactly the marginalized. Right. That's what.
Holy smoke! Is that right? Oh, you got to be kidding! I just thought so. This was fast, huh?
I'm not even done yet.
I told you. It doesn't. But. Yeah, really, the reason I do what I do, though, is all about my walk with Christ, and I mean the historical Jesus,
Right.
The guy that led 77, a gang of 77, that was about poor, was about fair wages, was about everybody being fed, and I'm a socialist, I'm a liberal theologist, stuff like that, and. That's what I'm about, and people either believe it or they don't believe it, and, but that's what gets me through, and, and again, it's about, it's about the people we work for. I'm about people over profit, yeah.
And you live it. I mean, I know you do, because I know your life, and I know how you have a healthcare business. Your healthcare business is about your ministry and making sure that people who don't have that opportunity, that need that. I mean, obviously, you came to New London, and you've been in this area because of your daughter. Who went to the Coast Guard
Academy,
right?
Yeah, right.
And but here, you
I got
became a part of the community.
Yeah, because I was directed. My homeless ministry was Christ directed. I had a vision about that and told what to do. I didn't want to do that. But I did it. Okay, and something I can be reluctant in my mission because of being directed, and the mission is about, if it works, it's because it works for Christ. If it doesn't work, I don't worry about those things. I believe, it's going to work because the boss will either make it work or it ain't going to work, and I don't worry about it.
And I'm starting to gain an understanding of that when I do that work for you, because there are some days when I'm looking at what we get accomplished, and I'm going,
how do we do that?
How do we do that? how did all these things come together?
It's amazing.
And it is.
It is, I know.
And that's truly, that's part of what I enjoy about what we do together.
But see, you have that spiritual understanding, okay? There's some people that don't have it. You have that spiritual understanding, and that's why it works. And you can see it because it works in your life, okay? And that's the difference between being religious and walking a walk. Talking the talk and walking the walk is a big difference between the two,
Sure,
okay? And sometimes it's a burden.
So I can't believe we're coming down to the last minute here. I know, for our audience, next week you'll see Father Russ over here in this seat. I'll be in the one over there. In between us, I do believe we have Bill Sadai.
Yeah, I hope so. Yeah, Bill's
coming on with us
next week, right?
Unfortunately, he's not.
He's not running for the Senate. He's not running for the race. God bless. Betsy is going to go there. We're going to support.
Now.
She's our candidate now. We're going to support Betsy.
We hope to have Betsy
I
on
hope
here
to have
soon.
Betsy on soon.
Betsy, this is our voice out to you.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
We'll see.
Father's sorry that he was on the other side. I love Betsy though, and I think she knows that, and she's really good to work with. But Bill was our town he's our town chairman, and it's tragic. But hey, now that's politics.
That's okay.
There's always another race.
We're going to have some interesting discussions next week.
Right.
Father, thank you very much.
Oh, thank you. Bless you, Dominic. It's very different being in the hot seat. God bless all you folks out there.
Time to run the street.